So I've been painting on a serious level for about 10 years now, and I have learned so many things along the way. And I'm going to share with you my top 10 tips for acrylic painting. So paintings always look best when they have a defined focal point. And what is a focal point? A focal point is basically the area of the painting that says, look at me first. It's the main focus of the painting. And what I have learned is that it's best to go by the rule of thirds. So if you divide your painting vertically into thirds and horizontally into thirds, your focal point, your main focal point, there can be more than one focal point, but your main focal point should be at one of the intersections. However, in abstract painting especially, rules are made to be broken, but you got to know the rules before you can break them. So, I just talked about the rule of thirds, and these are the best places to put your focal point. That rule can be broken. Sometimes you can make it work with your focal point somewhere else. Paint as fast as you can, especially if you're painting abstracts. Anytime I paint an abstract really fast, I'm always happier with it than when I paint it slower and try to pay attention to what I'm doing. If you paint fast, you don't have time to think about what you're doing, and you don't overthink things. You just do it, and you rely more on intuition when you paint fast. When you paint slower, you have time to think about what you're doing, and then you overthink it, and it's just, so just paint fast. Something that new painters really have a hard time grasping is values. Values is the lightness or the darkness of a color. So for example, you have black and white. What are all the shades in between black and white? You have dark black, medium black, light black, dark gray, medium gray, light gray, and then finally all the way to white. Well, it's the same with colors. Dark blue, medium blue, light blue, white, and all the shades in between there, all the light blues, all the medium blues, all the dark blues. So when you take a picture of your painting and convert it to black and white, you can see all the values. And everything's going to be a shade of black, right? In between black and white. So sometimes, many times, different colors will be the same value. So like burnt sienna and magenta, these are probably really close to the same value. Even though they're different colors, if I put these together on the canvas, it's going to look like one big blob. So you have to really pay attention to your values. Ideally, you want a range of values in your painting, a wide range. All right, so my next tip is to always look at your painting from across the room. So not only do you want to take a picture of it on your phone and look at it that way, but always, throughout the painting process, go to the other side of the room and look at your painting from afar. Does it look good far away? Does it look good close up? You want it to look good both ways, close up and far away. Because sometimes a painting will look really good close up, but then from far away it looks terrible, and vice versa. Sometimes it looks great far away, but then when you get close up, it doesn't look as good. If you're looking to loosen up your style, a silicone color shaper is just for you. This is a cross between a palette knife and a paintbrush. So you hold it like a paintbrush, but it operates like a palette knife, and you can get great texture with these too. They're great for texture, and they're great for loosening up. Another great tip I have for you is that you should use a limited palette. What is a limited palette? Well, it's just when you use a small number of colors. I usually use 5 colors at a time. For every painting, I usually limit it to 5 colors. And I usually use the same colors all the time and then mix them in different ways to get new colors. I replaced my titanium white with gesso. It's cheaper, so I just use gesso for white, cadmium yellow light, quinacridone magenta, phthalo blue, and burnt sienna. There are a couple really good reasons you want to use a limited palette. First of all, if you go back and paint your edges later, like if you're a lazy painter like me and you just worry about painting the front surface of the canvas, and you leave the edges for last, it's much easier to match your colors if you use a limited palette, like if you're just using 5 colors instead of like 20, let's say, then it gets harder to match the colors to your painting. If you want to wrap around the canvas, like if you want wrap around edges, gallery wrapped edges, where the composition goes off onto the sides of the canvas. So that's one reason. Another really important reason to use a limited palette is that you can get your colors to harmonize easily with just 5 colors versus 20 different colors. Okay, the more colors you use, the less harmonious they're gonna seem. Okay, so how many times have you been painting and then you end up with mud? Mud is what artists refer to when a bunch of colors mix together and then it looks like dirt, mud, whatever, just brown goop. One way you can prevent from getting mud in your paintings is by letting your paintings dry in between layers. So, if you mix like warm colors with cool colors, you're going to get mud. So that's another thing. Don't put warm colors on top of cool colors, then cool on top of warm, because that's going to give you mud also. So let your painting dry in between layers, and that should help you prevent from getting mud. Okay, so one thing that I love to use in my paintings is glazing liquid. And this is golden glazing liquid. And I keep the bottle. Sorry, Golden, I love you, but Nova Color paints, they make varnish, and I buy their matte varnish, and then I put it in this bottle. When I run out of the golden, I refill it with Nova Color matte varnish, and that makes a great glazing liquid, and it's a lot cheaper than these little bottles. So I buy the varnish in a gallon at a time through Nova Color paints. And like I said, it works great as a glazing liquid. And don't get me wrong, I love golden, but I can't always afford golden. So Nova Color is great for a glazing liquid. So have you ever looked at the price of gesso versus titanium white paint? If you've noticed, if you've really paid attention to this, you probably noticed that titanium white paint is a lot more expensive than gesso. So just like with, when I buy my paints, I buy them from Nova Color. And you can get a gallon of gesso, white gesso, for, right now anyway, for $24 cheaper than a gallon of titanium white paint. So you betcha, I buy the gesso and I substitute gesso for my white paint. I've noticed a trend lately. People are wanting their abstract paintings to be unsigned on the front. And one reason to do this, to not sign on the front, is that then if they buy the abstract painting and they want to rotate it and put it in a different orientation than you actually painted it, they can do that easily without your signature being upside down or sideways. So I recommend, especially for abstract paintings, not necessarily for still lifes and portraits, I would say sign those on the front, but abstract paintings, like I've gotten in the habit of signing them on the back or on the side, on the edge. And so on the back, I sign it with my name, the title, and I put my code on there, and Evansville, Indiana. So those are my top 10 tips for new acrylic painters. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to my channel. And if you found one of these tips extremely helpful, then drop me a comment below and let me know. I'd love to hear from you.